tough improving Big Ten West. I like the under in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mentioned that on Twitter. They going from 4-8 to 9-3 is a pretty big jump in a Power Five conference. I don't care how good a coach you have. It's a pretty big jump. And from things I've been reading about Frost, a lot of his methods he's doing is much like what Osborne did there. He's starting to accept walk-ons and getting them from the freshmen on up. Instead of the JCs and stuff, he's starting fresh, and he's keeping everything in Nebraska. It's like they built a wall around that state. He's not letting anybody out of that state. So they're keeping their talent there. Their talent has improved a lot. I think they're like fourth in the conference now, behind Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State in recruiting. They're really, really good right now. So I think Frost is in this for the long haul, and I think he's just going to build it a year at a time. And by the time next year, the year after comes around, that's when they'll be competing for the Big Ten championship, I think. But right now, I think I need to see a little bit more improvement on defense. I think that's their big problem right now is their defense.
Yeah,
So,
they're pretty thin in the
and
back
they
seven.
do have some tough. Yeah.
And
They're
their
thin
offensive line,
back
they lost
there.
74 career
They,
starts. So they're kind of starting a little bit over there. Again, the one good thing with Nebraska, kind of like Minnesota, if you like them over, they got a pretty good schedule. I mean, they get Whiskey, Iowa, Ohio State, and Northwestern all at home.
yeah, yeah. If I really had to make a pick on the total, I would probably go over, but I wouldn't be comfortable with it. I really wouldn't. That's 9 games is asking an awfully lot for a team coming off, 4-win season. And what's funny about that, you don't see it very often, but their juice is the same for the over under. So people really can't decide what they want to do with them at 8.5. That was a good number Vegas said right there. And so, if it was 8, I would probably make a shot at it to go over. Just a shot at it because I think they can maybe get to 8 games if everything goes right. But other than that, man, I don't know. That's like I said, that's an awfully big jump. You're gonna have to hope for some of these other teams to falter. I still think Wisconsin's ahead of them right now, in development and stuff. And they still have tough games. That's a pretty tough 3-game stretch they have with Ohio State, Northwestern, and Minnesota. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. I think they're going to have a lot of problems beating Wisconsin and Iowa. I don't think they'll beat both of them. I think they'll lose to at least one of them. So, and then they got to add Minnesota. That's a good enough schedule to where I can see 4 losses.
Yeah, at Maryland won't be easy either.
It may not. The things people that's things people think are easy games on these schedules aren't, just because of the way they sit on the schedule. Maryland is sandwiched between Wisconsin and Iowa, so
Exactly.
that's a pretty tough one. Plus, they only get 6 days for Maryland and Iowa. They had to come home and they only got 6 days until they play Iowa on a Friday night.
Yeah, I still lean under on that one. That would be one of my games that I'm going to look or totals I'm going to look really heavy at.
I was hoping that thing would go up to 9. Now, if everybody goes crazy and sets that thing up to 9, I might go for the under.
It started to get juiced up there for a while towards 9, and I was kind of waiting, and then it got
It did.
back down a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. It did. It really did. And I thought, oh man, it's heading that way.
All right, let's move on to probably one of the toughest teams in the country to handicap, the Northwestern Wildcats. I mean, these guys, I have no idea how they have gone 15-1 in the past 2 years in regular season Big Ten games. It's just amazing how they do it. I mean, their offense is horrible. It was horrible last year, and they still managed to win the West. It was unbelievable. I mean, they're 100th in the country in scoring. They were outgained in 4 of 9 conference games. There's just, I mean, once again, I just see a huge gap. I mean, between what this team could win. I mean, once again, they could possibly win 8 or 9 games, but they could win 4 or 5 games. I mean, right now I'm looking at their season win total at about 6. So really, they just have to become bowl eligible. What do you think of the Wildcats?
I'm seeing 6.5 on mine. I'm leaning towards the under, to tell you the truth, with that team. I think that, their team that only averages, about 118 yards rushing a game. They might be able to get away with that in 1 year, but I don't see them doing that 2 years in a row, especially when their quarterbacks combined for a 17-16 TD interception ratio. That's not very good. It makes you wonder how in the hell they went 8-1 in that division, in that conference. But I don't see them doing it twice in a row. And they were they did worse against the spread than I thought they did. They were 6-1. Yeah, 6-1. I'm kind of leaning the under, but I could be very wrong on that too. They've proved me wrong time and time again. He's just like Fitzgerald's just like that Braum. They do better than everybody forecasts them every single year.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me nervous. I think that I have a feeling they'll go under, but it still makes me nervous. But my problem with them is the same thing as Minnesota. The rest of the conference has improved. And nobody's going to be the pushovers they were. And I think Iowa's going to be gunning for them too this year after they've lost 2 or 3 years in a row, I think. So they've got to – I hate seeing – I'd much rather see – nobody talking about Northwestern, because when they win their division like that and go to the Big Ten championship game, they've got a target on their back for the next year, and nobody's going to take them for granted. And they have to play at Wisconsin, they have to play at Nebraska, and then they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game run with no bye weeks, and they have to play Ohio State and Iowa back to back. It's kind of tough. And they start out with Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that schedule, and you're at Stanford, you're at Wisconsin, you're at Nebraska, you're at Indiana, and like you said, they're playing Michigan State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Iowa all in a row.
Yeah, that's pretty tough drawing Michigan State and Ohio State from another division.
Yeah, they're crossing.
The
only team they missed over from the East was Penn State and Michigan, because I mean they got to take on Michigan State and Ohio State and then Indiana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So schedule makers didn't do them any favors. I think it's gonna be tough. I mean I'm seeing 6. You're seeing some 6.5s out there. I'd lean under on this one.
I'm leaning under, but on another note, something tells me with that defense they have that they're going to be a very good cover team this year. They're going to be they're going to be dogs in a lot of games. They're going to be dogs in home games. They'll be dogs, and
oh yeah,
I think they can play. I think they can play Michigan State and Ohio State, teams like that that'll be favored close to the vest with that defense. So I'd be leaning towards playing them. Against the spread, I would consider them a play-on team this year. And the one team in that division I don't consider a play-on team is Iowa. I don't think they'll do very good against the spread. Just my feeling. They won 8 games for last year, and I don't see them doing it again. Not with a much tougher schedule.
Yeah, and plus they got a new quarterback. He's supposed to, there's that Johnson kid from Clemson, so he's a big time recruit. But who knows? Who knows what they're going to do, or what he'll be able to do
Yeah,
with
I
them.
know they got it. Yeah, they need better quarterback production. Iowa does, but yeah, who knows? Who knows what it'll do?
All right, let's move on, and we're going to move on to the Purdue Boilermakers. Season win totals at 7. I got them projected right about 7, so I think the number looks pretty good. QB Sindelar, it's going to be his 6th year. But they got offensive line and rushing issues. Other than what more at receiver, I mean, what else do they have on offense? I think they're gonna be struggling. I mean, I've been reading some stuff about the offensive line, and even Brom's been talking about he doesn't have anything there. He's got 2 guys who started games last year, and that's it. So they're gonna be in a lot of trouble on offense. If Brom turns this into a good offense, the guy is just a magician, man.
Well, he is a magician. he's
So
he's
gonna need
good,
to be
man.
this year with that offense.
I'm kind of like you. I'm seeing 6 or 7. I think it's going to be one of those 2 totals that they'll hit, and I think really I actually think that everybody in that division will be bowl eligible except for Illinois. I think Purdue can get to 6 games just because they have some nice talent right now. He's recruiting really good. I mean, he had a really good 2019. He's got some talent in camp. It's just that that's all young and untested. But I like the team. I mean, I think they're heading the right way, and I think they're going to be tough here in a couple of years. That offense, though, is going to struggle. Even though he's a wizard, those offenses, I think he's still going to struggle early anyway. First 3 games going to be tough. He really picked a tough. He really picked stuff out of conference schedule to start the season. It ought to get him ready for the conference.
Yeah, I mean,
Nevada,
Vanderbilt,
Vanderbilt, TCU. Well, Vanderbilt could be tough too, although I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. But SEC's SEC, so with a young team like that, you don't you never can tell. But they were pretty young last year, and just look, how they started out. What was 0-3 or 1-3 to start the season? He started out 1-3 to start the season with a very young team, and they still came back and won 6 games. That's pretty damn good. That tells me a lot about the coaching when they do something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think maybe
they're just gonna be young, and
towards the second half of the season, I think they'll be better. They'll be dangerous.
Well, they're going to need to be because they got Nebraska at Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Indiana in their last 4 games. So, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule. It's just going to be tough to find 7. You're going to have to win those first 3 games.
Yeah, I would lean more towards the 6 than I would the 7, and let's see what bookmakers saying on that. They're saying I'm not seeing it now. Hold on a second.
I mean, I look at
what total are you seeing?
I look at this total and
7.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah,
I
7.
look at the total and say, worst case scenario, you're probably going to push if you go under, or if you go over, because the number just gets spot on.
Yeah, it does. I would be surprised if that team got to 8 wins. I don't, not with what he's got coming back in camp, and not with the way these other teams. Wisconsin. They're gonna reload. They're not gonna have another year like they had last year. They had a lot of things go wrong last year, and I think they'll rededicate themselves, but I'll talk about that later. Anyway, Purdue at 7, I would be leaning the